What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we're going to be doing our lineup build for the UFC card, which is a noon start time Saturday, because it's taking place halfway around the world. And we are going to attempt to build a set of lineups that's going to compete well in that big 150 max contest. And the goal of this is to learn how to build lineups that are, that are not just most likely to win, but most likely to win the most money. And UFC is a very, very interesting sport to try to make that happen. There's 12 fights, so there's 24 possible fighters you can play. So there are a very limited number of combinations. So if you want to try to compete for that big prize, it's difficult in general to get unique with lineups that have a chance to win. Um, so to be able to walk that tightrope between building good lineups and building lineups that uh, can win a lot if things go well is one of those really fun challenges that I kind of take on every week. So what we're not going to do in this video is spend a lot of time talking about who the best plays are. We did that in a previous video. I could review that if you want, but it's not nearly as important as it's not as important to know who the best plays are as it is to know when to play it. Okay, and that's probably not saying it in the greatest of ways, but let's just kind of get started. So what we're going to do is first we're going to take a look at the slate. We're going to analyze it and see what type of slate it is with respect to, playing the 150 max and using the tools at our disposal. Some slates we have to do some things, some slates we have to do other things. Then we're going to double check our ownerships and our point projections and our analysis and things like that. And then we're just going to run our process and just kind of live with it. What we're not going to do is check to see who we have, because quite honestly, it's not even relevant. If you trust your processes, if you trust your inputs, you really shouldn't be complaining about your outputs. So that is one thing that I have just come to do in the last year or so, playing DFS, and it has served me very, very well. All right, first of all, the first decision you're going to have to make are what projections you even are going to want to use. Okay. Whether you're going to want to use the SaberSim projections, whether you're going to use, I don't know if you're, depends on how you're viewing this, where you're getting your projections from. You have to decide what projections you're going to use, because it's garbage in, garbage out. If you use bad projections, it doesn't matter what process you use, it's going to come out, it's going to turn out bad. The other thing you're going to have to decide is what contest fields to create. In other words, what we're going to be doing is comparing our set of lineups to what we think the field is going to play. So which contest fields are you going to presume are being played? And that is sort of a derivative question of which ownerships are you going to use. Okay. So first things first, very important. Uh, this card, I am making several changes to the ownerships um, and to the projections that SaberSim, for example, will offer. I just think they're kind of out to lunch this week. They could, listen, their sims can change as we approach lock, but I'll give you some examples. So we're going to put mine in, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click this button, automatically create custom fields from ownership. So what that's going to do is it's going to say, the contest field that we presume that people are, the fields that people, oh boy, the lineups that people are going to play in the contest we're playing, we have a better chance of figuring out what they are than just relying on SaberSim. That's what this is saying. So we are creating our own contest fields based on what we think the ownership should be, as opposed to what SaberSim does. Sometimes we go with the SaberSim stuff, and sometimes we do not. And we're going to get back to that in a second. But let's go and see what changes we've made. And I will highlight, again, some of the spots here. So first of all, what you were getting, if you look at SaberSim here, it had Irina Alekseeva with 101% projection, and that's just completely out to lunch. Okay. In addition to that, you had Melissa Mullins with like 60. That's out to lunch. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of them. Now, again, don't want to trash on SaberSim. They do an amazing job. But and maybe they run more sims in the next 12 hours, but there's no chance that I'm going with that. So I'm double checking some of these projections and make sure that this is kind of what I want to do here. And I think it's very fair to put Sadikoff at the top here at 83, and then Gear with 82. Oban Elliott, despite him being this highly priced, we have him here. That was another one. Curtis Blades. I mean, SaberSim really underprojected him, I believe. And then I think the rest of these I'm kind of okay with. Oral Blast 69. You have Hill and Roundtree. See, like SaberSim had Hill with 15 more points than Roundtree. So, I mean, I don't know. Uh, so I like my projections. Let's see how I like my ownership projections. Jamal Hill at 45%. I think that's fair. I do think the main event's going to be the highest owned, and I think that Jamal Hill saving the 600 is going to be the most popular. I think that's very fair. Blade, Sadikoff, Oral Bly. I mean, these are all very, very logical plays with good wrestling upside that people are just going to play. That's the way it is. I'm worried that the Mullins ownership projection is a little low. Um, but I think I can live with that, right? So we like our projections, we like our ownership projections. So what type of contest is it? What kind of slate is this with respect to our ability to use the tools on SaberSim? So what this I think this slate is really good for is relying on the sims and the contest sims. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes you have fights where we're not exactly sure who's going to win, but whoever that is definitely going to blow up the slate. Okay. If you have like $280 fighter, $100 fighters, and you know one of them is going to win in the first 30 seconds, those particular fights and those particular slates are not handled very well, in my opinion, by SaberSim and other Sims related products. What those fights usually do is, I don't say it forces them to, but most Sims and most optimizers or whatever, they'll make a choice one over the other, and that's not the way you play a situation like that. In a situation like that, you play multiple lineups and you just cover both bases. But the SaberSim and others like it don't do, in my opinion, the best job with those particular situations. So whenever I look at a slate, if there's a situation like that where we just know that the winner is going to be optimal, but we just don't know who it is, then you're going to have to, in my opinion, just do a little more like manual upgrading and manual rule making and things like that. But this card, I don't think is like that. I don't think there's a particular fight where you know for sure that whoever wins is going to smash. Okay. Um, you could argue, I don't even know which one that would be. I mean, really, like which one would we even argue would be the one that would smash whoever won? I really couldn't even imagine. Every fight has the possibility of busting. Maybe the oral by fight, but not even, So uh maybe the Sadikoff fight actually. No, because Sadikoff can win a decision. I mean, that's certainly in the offing here. So with that said, it's a very, very good slate to let SaberSim kind of do its thing. Okay. Now, when I let SaberSim do its thing, I let it do its thing to a point, and then what I've been doing is bringing on the Paydirt portfolio manager to kind of double check for dupes, because one thing I have found is that SaberSim, even when they sort by ROI, you end up with just all these lineups that are just incredibly well duped. And it's not that, well, that just means that they're just so much more likely to win, and you want to get the dupes because when you look at SaberSim's analysis of how many dupes they're projecting for those lineups, they're always too low. So I have to kind of look to see if there are other ways to ensure, or at least, hope that the lineups that should be low duped based on our analysis are in fact going to be low duped. So Pater Portfolio Manager does a pretty good job with that. A Pater Portfolio Manager does a good job doing other things, which I am learning. I'm not completely convinced that some of the things that James says I should be doing, I should be doing. There's certainly options, and maybe one day we'll get into that. But right now, my process, at least for this slate, is probably just going to be what I just said. Just run the lineups, run the contest sims, and then just run those through the Pater, portfolio manager and just sort for dupes and make sure that I'm not playing stuff with too many dupes. So let's just start and then we'll just get it going. So building lineups, and we're not making any rules pre-flop, right? As I mentioned. And we're going to stick with 47.5 minimum salary because that's what Saberson's recommending. And um and let's just make sure that I did have my own uh projections in here. I did. So now what we have to do is tell it to sim against my field here. So within the throwdown, instead of flagship MME, we're going to use the Sheets 44 lineups. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and hit run contest sims. Okay. Um, and then we will, so now it's sorted by ROI. Is there a particular one we want to sort by ROI? Yeah, let's use the throwdown. Okay. Just the throwdown. But what we're going to do is we're going to take 500 lineups. And the reason why is so that we have some to choose from the portfolio managers. And I imagine that not all of them are going to be as low duped as we think they are. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this to the CSV, these 500. Okay. And we have to kind of curate a little bit. But before we do that, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see what these look like here. It's looking for showing very few dupes projected. It's just SaberSim's great, but as far as predicting dupes, it's just not the greatest. Okay, so what we have to do to get into the portfolio manager tool, we have to cull it down a little bit. And then we have to save this. We're going to call it in Krug MMA. We're going to call this I don't know, Pater 620. Okay, because that's the date we're doing this. Okay. So what I've done, by the way, is I created a macro that whenever I run my projections, I create the files that I need now to uh, upload to the Paydor Portfolio Manager. So because I'm uploading from SaberSim, I have to put a CSV file in there that does some name matching. And as you'll see, there's a template here where you have to fill in name, ID, and salary, whatever. So it recognizes the names of the people. But again, I created my own little macro here that will do it for me once I update projections. So I just already have the file made now. That's a big improvement. Okay, so it puts it in over here. Then you have to put the projections file in. And that, again, is something that if you look at this, they have a template. We have to fill in all this stuff with your ownership projections and all that stuff. But again, once I ran my stuff, I created a macro that did this for me. And so this kind of goes right in there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to just upload these files We don't even have to select the sport yet, but we will in a minute. We'll put these files in, the ones that we just created, Pater 620. And we have the 500 lineups that we have in there. Now we're gonna, I don't even know if you need to do this, but we'll put MMA, classic types, and then we will go to manage portfolio. Uh, and then it's gonna like give us some options to do some stuff. First thing, let's select field strength, and we're gonna make this sharp. Okay. And there are now things you could do with these lineups that I am not going to today, but I might in the future. And that involves sorting by different subcategories and making sure they kind of cascade down in a meaningful way. Um, and James has showed me how to do that. I'm just not doing it today. I just have a couple more questions about when to do that and when not to do that. And there are ways to filter lineups with different players and take a look at them. But I am just going to use this to do my dupe predictions here for now. So let's download the portfolio. And here are the lineups. And you'll see here that some of them, most of them look pretty good. I mean, I'm actually very nice, pleasantly surprised at the dupe prediction for these. But and because of that, I think we're going to get pretty greedy here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the all the lineups that have more than I say even five dupes. You know. Um, Now I wonder how this is being ranked right now. This actually I don't know how Portfolio Manager is ranking these right now. It looks like, mm, I'm not sure, but I can just re-rank them in any way I want. So let's first filter these. Data, filter, and let's literally just chop off everything with more than five dupes. Okay. And I really think we can get away with that. I mean, it's really easy. And now it's just a question of how we want to re-rank these things, you know? So we have what of my 500 top ROI lineups, we now have 340 of them, okay, that are less than five dupes. So how do we want to rate these? Do you want to take the top by median? I mean, there's certainly a reasonable, okay? Um, we could sort by look at these amazing geo means we have here. Like these are very low. I mean, this is we're in pretty good shape, I think, with these lineups. As a matter of fact, let's have some fun here. Let's see what geo mean we would want if we want to predict five dupes or less. So what do you have, 25,000 people in this tournament, something like that? So this is my geo mean calculator. So if we wanted to have five max, so geo mean of 24 is all we need. I mean, they're all under 24. I mean, we're in business here. Okay. Um, so that's good news. So I think we can almost be greedy and just sort by median at this point, you know? Um, yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. I mean, we've already had good 500 good ROI lineups. We've been able to chop off so many of them that have less than five dupes, or five dupes or less. And now I don't think there's any more reason to be a hero. Now we can just sort by median and just be kind of done with it. So that's it. Let's take these 150. Right? Well, just for fun, okay, we're also playing, by the way, we're playing the whatchamacallit, the word I'm looking for, the mini max. So what we'll do is we'll put the second 500, the second 150 into the mini max. Why not? So let's take those. Hang on. Okay, so let's first put the 150 into the throwdown, and then we will go. We'll take the next 150. Do we have another 150? Or no? Yeah. 152 to 301, right? We'll put those in the $3. Boom. Okay. Save, upload, and Dunsky. Um, Let me just make sure that they're in there. And again, without me getting into who I have, which I'm not going to check anyway. Let's hold on. Okay, we uploaded those. We're certainly not going to look at exposures. Yeah, we wait till after lock for that. But at least you'll see that there's no duplicated lineups. In other words, nothing with more than one. So the totally different lineups are in everything, including the big buy-ins. Now that is something we could do. Okay. That is something we could kind of like work on building by hand, I guess. And it shouldn't be that difficult to build, you know, a to build a the big buy-ins. Let's see. Sport. Let's just pull that up. Come on, Eric, what are you doing? Not undrafted contest. I just want to find the stupid. There it is. The knockout. Okay, so like, what can we do here? Like, this is what this is now. I'm not playing Segula in the big buy-in, obviously. So, I mean, Blades, I suppose. Oral buy, I suppose. Can we play all these guys? Probably not. We could fade the main event if we want to. Um, Nordia Park. So what are good upside underdogs here? I mean, we have what's his name? Where Grad is probably decent underdog here. He's got upside. And then you have who was the other one that I was saying before? Oh yeah, whoever was actually fighting Oral Bly, so I can't worry too much about that. Um, I mean, I guess Jamal Hill's a good play. And then yeah, then we have to then it's a little hard. It's harder than I thought here. To make really, really good low risk lineups. I do like the grad play. And if you don't want to play Earl Bly, you want to play the other dude, that's one thing you could do. So if you want to get leverage against one guy, maybe, and I talked about this earlier in the week, and then play one of these guys. I do think that Fiziev is actually pretty sneaky here, by the way. I think that a lot of people are saying Baja Mondays are bust. And if you want to play a kind of a chalky rest of your lineup here, actually, is this even that chalky? Like, even go up and play Roundtree here. And this is actually not bad. The Fiziev is a pretty freaking sneaky play, I think. Um, I don't know that many people are going over not going overweight because I don't know that many people are taking a decent stand on Fiziev here. If anything, and that's five people are taking Bahamondes. And I also think that people are taking Jamal Hill more than Roundtree, as I mentioned. So you get a little leverage here, and then you go sort of chalky the rest of the way. I think this is actually one way to go. The other thing you could always do, right, is where's my is just see what the Sims will give me in that contest. So let me just see. So let's sim for the knockout. See what we would get here. Mullins, Naimov, Oral by Wound. See this makes sense too. Okay, this is the other way to go. Maybe something like that. Mullins, Park, Oral by, like all these are probably pretty good. This Fiziev grad, this is exactly the one I put in almost, but it wanted me to play Hamdi. And Hamdi's actually not a bad low risk play. But it looks like grad is really the idea here. Grad, grad, Roundtree, Fiziev. This combination looks pretty good. So again, this to me is not as interesting as how to play the 150 max. You can find the good plays here, and certainly there's nothing wrong with Young Park if you didn't want to play Hamdi, but then you probably have to give up something here. Um, So anyway, that's what I'm doing this week. It's a pretty streamlined process for me. And again, shout out to SaberSim for their part, and shout out to Pater for their part, and shout out to me for my part. Because it's 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 a joint effort to put these things together. And that's pretty much all that I have. Remember, noon start tomorrow, and let's get it.